Hello Black Sheep and friends, thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. Black Sheep, Harley Davidson's for Christ. My name is Marty Edwards, I'm the National President, and Happy New Year to you. I start to say I wish you could see. I'm glad you can't see what's in front of me right now. I have papers and notes everywhere. Tonight is going to be, I believe, a landmark moment in Black Sheep. I want to share something with you tonight that is really, really important as far as the future and the development of Black Sheep. It's something I've been praying about for probably 6 months and talking to people about and getting advice on it, and I'm just kind of excited about it. Before we do go there, over the Christmas, New Year's break, I've had some time to think, and I've been sick for a while, so that's a good time for God to talk to us when we're laying in bed. And it's on my heart at the beginning here to give thanks to you in Black Sheep in terms of what some of you guys have done. It struck me hard the other day how many of you have been with us for a very long time. Some of you have been with us for a decade, some almost 20 years. And it's because of people like you and your faithfulness that we've been able to accomplish anything that we've done. You and, of course, God's grace and God's mercy. So I want you to know who you are. You've been around a long time. And while others have kind of come and gone, you've stayed. You've been here from the very, very beginning. And I just thank you so much for that. It means so much to me. The Church of Jesus Christ is, in these last days, can be a little flaky, a little self-centered, and we are blessed in Black Sheep to have so many that are just disciples of Christ, and I'm grateful to know you and to have you part of this ministry. I also want to thank the infrastructure of this ministry. They're the people that you don't always see or hear. They're in the background, but there's my staff, and there's a board. We've had a lot of boards in Black Sheep. They've kind of transitioned over the years. The board that we have right now is just incredibly gifted, talented, supportive. They're not a board who acquiesces to everything that I want to do or bring up. They challenge me, they encourage me, they correct me, and I appreciate my board. They're also very generous to this ministry, and they're just faithful men of God, and I'm thankful for them. And then I have advisors that you don't even know about. Some are Black Sheep, some are not. I talk to them once a week, once a month, and they're always encouraging me and letting me know what's going on. There's the staff, not the staff, but the people who staff the ministry across the country. There's the chapter presidents and the RDs and the area contacts and the national chaplain, and there's so many that have taken roles and been in those roles for a long time. Every time I appoint a new regional director, I always tell them that this is not a life sentence, and yet some of them have been regional directors for years, and that's a hard job because they pretty much are called upon when there's trouble, and they try to bring encouragement and blessing throughout the year, but the rubber really hits the road when they have to step up and deal with problems. So I also want to thank the individuals and the churches and the businesses that have supported us financially. That is, any ministry runs on finances. It's just the way it is. And we've been blessed with a number of churches, a number of businesses, and a number of individuals who have just been able to bless this ministry financially. It's a gift to be able to give, and they have the gift of giving, and that's been really well. I have a well-defined and renewed enthusiasm for 2019, and that's what I want to talk to you about. But first, I forgot, there's one thing of business I got to do. I woke up this morning to my wife telling me that our oldest son's wife was in labor, and that our granddaughter was on the way. And so I'm really excited about Tessa Joan, who just joined our family. Lovely little girl. I wanted to show you a picture of her. She's just a doll. Love her to death. No, I'm just kidding. That's a picture of our bookkeeper when he was a baby. Sorry, John, threw you under the bus, didn't I? She looks like any other beautiful little grandbaby. She's pink and wrinkled and doesn't have a whole lot of hair, but she's our member of our family, and I'm really excited. Hey, there's John Lyons. I just made fun of you. Sorry, buddy. Michael Radke, Mike Roberts from Hawaii. Good to see you on there. Paul Erickson. Still waiting to get your phone call. I missed you. Grant Jones up in Alaska. I'm going to also try to shorten our Facebook Live sessions this year. I think that we've kind of gotten sloppy, and we've gone a little longer, a little longer, a little longer, and your guys' time is precious, and so I'm going to try to keep this hopefully to about 30 minutes, because I think that's about where our attention span is. Angel Alvarez working very hard to help us pull together our ILS Summit in May up in San Jose. Victoria Hitchcock, good to see you. Grayson Adams, you wild man, good to see you there as well. Okay, I'm gonna dive into some notes that I have here, and I gave you guys some notes. If you go to the original message that I sent out that has that talks about tonight on Facebook Live, I added 3 single pages of notes that you might want to have. I got that idea from one of you that said, I think it was Rich Preston, who said, do you ever have notes on what you are talking about? And I said, does it sound like I have notes? Tonight I have notes. Tonight I have notes because this is really important stuff. And I wanted you to have the notes as well. If you don't get them now, you can get them afterwards. I'm not going to leave them up there for days and days and days, only because this is fairly sensitive stuff that I'm sure we don't want the whole world to know. And yet Facebook Live is such a powerful tool. We're going to go ahead and risk it and put some of this stuff out here for a few days for you to get. A while back, I put together a missions report, looks something like this. I know you're looking at it backwards, and that's okay. This is a 10-page document. When people during our fundraisers were giving us thousands and thousands of dollars, we raised $50,000 twice this last year, and praise God for that. That's just changed everything in this ministry. Again, I want to remind you, we didn't do anything different to the building. Nobody got a raise. We didn't go buy any new equipment. We just started helping other chapters. We started traveling. We started ministering in a lot of different areas. We started going to different rallies, different conferences, trying to get the name of this ministry and the name of Christ out there. And those of you who were a part of those 2 fundraisers, God bless you. That has really, really made the difference and set the stage for what we're doing tonight. So the first thing I had to do after we raised all that money, the right thing to do, is I put together a missions report. And this is a 10-page report kind of on who we are, what we're doing, where the money's going, and that sort of a thing. And I want to share with you tonight something that I put in the, I believe it was in one of the newsletters right before we switched over to the e-magazine. And you may remember it. It's called The Logic Behind the Intentional Expansion. I think I named this program tonight Intentional Expansion, Being Faithful to the Great Commission, or something like that. And I want to read it to you, and I believe you have some notes for it. Let's see. Yes, you do. You have a sheet that says the logic behind intentional expansion, and it says background notes. And I want to walk through that with you and read it, and you can just kind of take notes as you go. This is very, very important stuff. This is the thing that is giving me such a well-defined and renewed enthusiasm for 2018. I believe this is going to be a landmark year for us. I'm not saying that out of some kind of hype. Hey guys, let's get all excited because we're going to take the world for Christ this year. It's not that. This is kind of a these are deep waters that I've gone through in the last probably 6 months, and even more so towards the end. And then a couple of weeks ago, going through Christmas and New Year's, my wife was working. My kids were at their in-laws, so I was kind of alone this year. And I'm not whining. That was probably God's providence that I had that time to be alone. So I share this with you very intentionally, and this is very, very important stuff. So please make sure that your chapter presidents and your regional directors see this. We're going to send it to them, but I want you to call it to their attention as well. Let me read to you these excerpts. It says, earlier this year, and this is now going back a year ago, I met with a good friend of Black Sheep who offered to match our special gift of $25,000 in a very unique campaign. Of course, you guys know how that turned out. We raised the $50,000, and then we raised another $50,000. Below are some excerpts from a 10-page document that explains the thoughts and planning for what we have decided to call intentional expansion. Some background, it says. Depending on the source and published date, this is a little research that we did on Harley Davidson and what's going on in the motorcycle world that helped our donors understand what we were trying to do. Depending on the source and published date, our best information tells us that there are between 700 and 800 Harley Davidson dealerships in the United States today, most of who are sponsoring a local HOG chapter, Harley Owners Group, which is a sponsored riding community and marketing club operated by Harley Davidson. Some of these dealerships are merely clothing outlets, and of course they don't have a HOG chapter, and some are thorough, true dealerships, and they may choose to not sponsor a HOG chapter. But for the purposes of this report, we will work with the number 800 HOG chapters in the U.S. Black Sheep Harley Davidsons for Christ, this is important. Black Sheep Harley Davidsons for Christ was established in 1999 as a non-profit organization to serve the humanitarian and spiritual needs of Harley Owners Group. As time progressed, the services of Black Sheep expanded to riders of all American V-twins, a designation that would generally be accepted by HOG members and most Harley riders. The decision to focus was strategic in nature and not meant to be snobbish or exclusive. There were and are dozens of other Christian motorcycle ministries, good ones, who for whatever reason do not necessarily come in contact with HOG, and so that became our mission and our focus. There are currently about, and this number is up and down, but this is a pretty fair number. There's currently about 950 Black Sheep members, active and retired, in this ministry. These members are primarily working in 36 U.S. states with a minimal presence in Australia and Mexico. California has our largest representation of members with 45 chapters and area contacts. Now listen to this. Listen to this. All of that, taking the HOG numbers and our chapters and where we are, all of this reveals that we have members involved in less than 10% of the U.S. HOG chapters. It is for that reason that we are compelled to grow. It is for that reason that we did fundraisers. It is for that reason that we have this intentional expansion. If you're a part of a club or a social group, this doesn't matter. But if you take seriously the mission, if you take seriously that we are missionaries, you cannot be satisfied with Black Sheep being in less than 10% of the HOG chapters who we are trying to serve on a humanitarian and spiritual level. It goes on to say 2018 general objectives and goals. And at this point, these were kind of an outline, kind of a brainstorming with you, throwing out what it might look like. And I'm going to tell you what the goals and the objectives and the goals are specifically for the national office this coming year. First of all, notice that an objective, we get goals and objectives mixed up sometimes, but an objective, our objective is something that is broad and general. Win people to Jesus, that's an objective. Influence people for Christ, that's an objective. Goals, on the other hand, are specific, and they are measurable, and they are attainable. Now let me explain those three words, those are important. Our objective is reach people for Jesus. That's in our mission statement. Take the gospel to bikers who ride, okay? That's our objective. But now very specifically, our goals are specific. We want to do this, and we want to do this, and we want to do this. And these things, they have to be measurable. You can't say, we want to win a bunch of people to Jesus. That's not specific. And I'll tell you why it's important that we be specific in a few minutes. But they must be specific. They must be measurable. That is, we need to be able to say, we want to see a 50% increase. We want to see 200 people. We want to see 35 states. It's numbered. And it's important that we do that because then it becomes measurable. And measuring is important because it tells you how far you've come. How many of us go on a road trip and don't keep our eyes on the odometer? Wow, we've come 200 miles today. Why don't we just ride until we fall off? Because we know that there's a time to stop and go to the bathroom. There's a stop to get gas. There's a time to refuel. There's a time to call it a day and spend the night. Goals need to be measurable. But they need to be obtainable too. I've had people dismiss the kind of thing I'm talking about tonight by saying, well, my goal is just to win the whole world to Jesus. Well, I don't want to be a pessimist, but you're probably not going to win the entire world to Jesus. Okay? All the evangelists and all the pastors and all the great church leaders over the centuries have never reached the world for Jesus. And so goals need to be attainable. They have to be reasonable. You might stretch it and say, wow, we'd like to win 5,000 people to Christ. That's maybe crazy, but it's great. It's attainable. The whole world is not attainable. You may want to say, I want to double my salary this year if you're working in a job someplace. I want to triple my salary. But to say I want to make $10 million this year, even though that is measurable, it's not probably attainable unless you're just in some incredibly great job. So, objectives are broad and general. Goals are specific, measurable, and attainable. Black Sheep's objectives have not changed in nearly 2 decades. We started in 1999. We're coming out, this is our 19th anniversary this year. At ILS, this will be our 19th anniversary. In 2019, it will be our 20th anniversary. And our objectives have not changed in over 20 years, or in almost 20 years. Now, your notes say something like that. Where is it here? Yeah, they've not changed in nearly 20 years, but certainly our methods for better ministry are always changing. We're always trying something different, but our purpose hasn't changed. Our purpose has not changed. Why do we need this stuff? Well, I love this quote that I gave you here from Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you are going, then any road will take you there. And I feel like there's so many of us that are like that. Our goal is to put one foot in front of the other. And I think that God has more for us. I think that God wants more for us. Why is this so important? Well, the Word tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 that the God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. They're blind. They can't see. That's how important our ministry is. We're here to help blind people see. Why? Because they're walking through life, they're headed for a cliff, they're going to go over the edge, and there's eternal hell and damnation. And that might get me kicked off of Facebook tonight. So if my screen goes dead, you'll know why. But that's why we're here. It's why we do it. This is a tragic but accurate depiction of the state of the people apart from Christ. Satan is holding them hostage. He's keeping them in prison, and he's blinding them to the gospel. As Paul says in Ephesians, they are without hope, and they are without God in this world. And that's who we are. That's how important this motorcycle ministry is. You may have thought that this motorcycle ministry was about your next road king or your next road glide. No, this ministry is about blind people that need to see. And that's why it's important that we talk. I know it's maybe boring for some of you, but it's why we talk clinically. It's why we talk strategically about this ministry. I'm not the motorcycle ministry president who is just fat, dumb, and happy to just continue riding and representing Jesus. And coming back after a day's hard ride or hard day at a rally and say, it's all good, or it is what it is. It's not all good. There's a lot of waste in the motorcycle world, in the Christian motorcycle world. There's a lot of waste in our churches that just show up week after week after week, and they exist for nobody else but themselves. That's not the national president I can be. I'm here to see a reachable, what's the word I want? A specific, measurable, attainable, reachable number of people come to Christ. I hope that's yours as well. And so the breakdown of that for us is that we have kind of a two-part Great Commission. We know the Great Commission. I'm going to read it to you here in Matthew 28. Jesus said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples." We take his authority. We've been given his authority. Therefore, since I have all the authority, go and make disciples of all nations. Understand that it doesn't say go and make believers. Isn't that funny? Jesus didn't say go and win people to Christ. He didn't say go and get people to pray the sinner's prayer. There's a lot of people who believe that are lost because they've not acted on that belief. You can believe that food over there will save you from dying of hunger, but if you don't eat it, if you don't devour it and take it in, you're going to starve to death. And just because somebody says the magic words or reads the prayer on the back of the little card doesn't necessarily mean they're saved. Jesus has called us to make disciples. And that's why, again, strategically, forgive me for using that word over and over, but that's who I am. That's how I roll. The Great Commission is to go and make disciples. That's more than a believer. That's a disciple. And that's why Black Sheep is locked into the local church. We're not a church. We don't want a church, be a church. We go to churches so that we can take people back to our churches where they can become more than believers. They can become disciples. They can become fruitful members of the body of Christ. See, we don't have to stop and have Bible studies, and we don't have to stop and have church services. I'm not bagging on anybody else who does that. That's their calling. That's what they should do. But for us, we don't stop for that. We are fishermen, and we take them back to the fish house to get cleaned up and trained up and encouraged and filled with the Holy Spirit and trained up for ministry and sent out. But that's not our job. We're fishermen. And so he says, go into the world, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you, and surely I am with you even to the end of the age. Now, in Matthew 9, earlier than this, Jesus kind of shared the other part, actually both parts, but the other part of what our commission is. In Matthew chapter 9, beginning in verse 6, I've read this to you many times before, but it so fits who we are. When Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. Why did he have compassion on them? Because they were hungry, because they were sick, because they were crippled? Not necessarily. Maybe it was because the God of this age had blinded them, and they were lost and without their Messiah. That's the bigger picture. He fed them, he healed them, he cured them, he touched their diseases, he gave them self-esteem, he gave them acceptance and love and forgiveness and mercy. But the big picture is that he reached them and he had compassion for them because they were lost, they were blind, they were going to hell. And he had compassion on them. So it says when Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And then he said to his disciples, the harvest, that's part one of our Great Commission. The harvest, they're the ones that we're supposed to go into all the earths and present the gospel. The harvest is plentiful, but here's part two. The workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. So part of what we're trying to do is to reach the lost. But because we're only in less than 10% of the hog chapters in the United States alone, we need a whole lot more workers if we're going to be able to cover those areas. We need to be in more cities. We need to be in more states. We need to be in more countries. We need to be in more dealerships if we're going to come anywhere near meeting the Great Commission's goal for us to win the world to Christ. And our section of the world that we've been called to reach is the riding world, the motorcycle world. And our primary focus within that riding world is Harley Owners Group. Not to the exclusion of anybody else, but just a focus. And we focus there because nobody else is doing it. Now, I haven't said all that. Let me go back to the international expansion part and read that. And then I'm going to give you some very specific goals. And I'm going to give you a tool that we're going to be using this year to help you as well get into holding yourselves accountable as a chapter and building your chapters. I gotta slow down. I'm too excited. Okay, so in regards to goals, If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, says Alice in Wonderland. If we throw a dart at the wall and then we draw a circle around that dart and we declare bullseye, we're just fooling ourselves. Goals must be set. They must be declared. Goals bring risk. They bring accountability, rewards, and sometimes the challenge to do better next time. But without goals, we're just busy. We're not necessarily effective. And we were called in the gospel to do excellence and to be effective. This is going to make somebody nervous. I know some of you are out there that are very quickly you're going to say, oh, this is going to be punitive. They're going to be pointing fingers at our failures. We're not doing enough. Not at all. Not at all. You know, if you have a goal to increase something by 100% and you only increase it by 30%, did you fail? No, you succeeded 30%. And so next year you adjust that goal and you say, well, maybe I can't do 100, so I'm going to shoot for 60% this year of whatever it is that you're trying to do. And maybe that year you try a little harder and you don't get 30, but you get 45. So you're closer to your goal. It's not a stick that we beat each other up with. It's a measuring tool to look back behind us and say, how are we doing? How far have we come? Are we making a difference? It's a measuring tool. And I'm just going to challenge you. The guy that's out there or the gal that's out there right now saying, oh boy, here it comes. You're going to get all legalistic on it. No, man, you're living in fear. You're just afraid of being held accountable. I'm accountable. I'm accountable to you. I'm accountable to my board. I'm accountable to my accountability partner. I'm accountable to my staff. I want to do good. I want to do a good job. Don't you want to do a good job? Don't you want to see where we're succeeding and where we're needing improvement? That's what this is all about. And so I write in here, I say, I know that this will be intimidating to some. I know because it's intimidating to me. What if we don't reach our goals? What if we fall short? I've asked myself these things many times. But without goals, we don't know if we're succeeding or not. We're just throwing a dart at a big empty wall. Oh, we hit the wall. Oh, we hit the wall. It's all good. We hit the wall. It is what it is. We hit the wall. But we really don't have any measurement of, are we making a difference? So I have given you a form. It looks kind of like this, but it doesn't have the red in it. One of them is a blank form, and it's called the 2018 Monthly Progress Report. This is for every chapter, and this is for every area of contact. And then I gave you another one just like it, but it's got some red letters in it that explain how to fill out this form. Let me just kind of walk you through this real quick, and then I'm going to give you my goals. See, I'm not just asking you to have goals and to meet those goals if you can, or come as close as you can. I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the national office. I'm going on record in front of you that this is what I. I'm trying to read what people are saying. This is what I'm putting myself out there. I'm putting myself on the line, and it's scary, and it might be scary for you as a chapter. But we're not going to take what's going on in your chapter and call you out in front of everybody at ILS and tell everybody what a lousy job you're doing, or not even what a great job you're doing. This is for you to fill out, for us in here in the office to look at, and for us to turn around and I'll show you, there's a place in here where we want to respond back to you and say, how can we help? What can we do for you? What do you need? Okay, so it says up here at the top, it says this report is due to the national office by the 1st of every month. And then there's 3 ways that you can send this report in. I'm talking now to chapter presidents and area contacts. You can email it in, and I gave you the email address. You can fax it in, and I gave you our fax number. Or you can mail it if you want to send it old school through snail mail. You can mail it to P.O. Box 1332. Okay? Very simple. Now listen, this is what I put in red, so this is kind of like a secret note to just you. This is not a punitive or checking up on our chapter's idea. We just want to get serious about real ministry, objectives, goals, measurable change, making a difference, reaching the lost, bringing them into the kingdom of God. It's doubtful that anyone will have increases every month. So it's not like if you go up, and then down, that, oh, you failed. No. It's an up and down. It's a growth over process. It's doubtful that anyone will have increases every month, but if we don't measure, we don't know. And as they say, ignorance is bliss. It's nice to look back and go, well, I think we did a really great year, but you don't know. Don't you want to know? I want to know. Don't you want to know if your time and your money and energy in this ministry is making a difference? I do. I turned 62 this year. I'm becoming very sensitive about my age in the sense that I don't have a whole 100 years left to make a difference in this world. I want to make a difference. I want to make a real difference. It says, remember that your national ministry is putting themselves under a very similar scrutiny, though different categories, and I'll explain that in a second. So then it goes down. It says monthly report, and you put in the month, and you check whether you're a chapter or whether you're an area contact. Now it says here, not everything below is going to apply to the area contact the way it does to a chapter. That's okay. This isn't a government form that if you don't dot your I and cross your T, we're going to send it back to you in a wad. Just make it work for you, okay? Then over here it says, my current chapter membership is, well, obviously as an area contact, it's going to be 1, or maybe 2, or maybe 3. But you put your chapter in there, you say 12, okay? And then it says, how many would you say are active in your chapter? Oh, because people say, well, I've got 30 in my chapter. Well, how many of them are active? My chapter's a lot bigger than that, but they're not all active. So you say, well, we got 30 here, and I would estimate that maybe 18 of us are really active. Okay? And I also put a note here that says everybody is active in different ways due to family and work schedules. Everybody gives, but everybody gives something differently. Some people have got weeks off at a time to go for long rides. Some people can grab a weekend now and then. Some people work the weekend, so they have to do something during the week. Some people have skills, specific skills. Some people don't have those skills, and so they have to give them a different way. But just basically, how many of you would you say in your chapter are active? How many are MIA? This is important. I was talking to the head of a large Christian motorcycle organization years ago, and we were talking, and he revealed the size of his organization, which was much bigger than ours. And then he mumbled under his breath, and he says, but we don't know where half of them are. I said, what? And he confessed that they had this big organization, but that they didn't know where half of their members were. That's not the way we roll, folks. We are responsible for each other. We are accountable for each other. And out of our 1,000 members, we know where everybody is except for a handful, a very small handful, and even they are on what we call an MIA, a missing in action list. We're trying to find them. We don't know where they are, but we're hunting them down. Not because we want something from them. We want to know: are they sick? Did they die? Did they quit? Did they join some other organization? Are they still wearing our patch out there while raising hell or what? We want to know. So we're staying in contact. So we ask you what your current membership is. How many would you say are active? How many are MIA? Have you attempted to contact your MIAs? Okay, and you say yes or no. And then down here it says, if yes, if you have tried to contact them with no avail, list their names below in this big empty section because we want to help you. We may have more information than you do. And we want to do everything we can to stay in contact. Now down here, I've got 9 things that I'm suggesting that you could use as objectives and goals. If you say, well, we're not crazy about your 9 things, we got our own 9 things. I'd encourage you to use some of these because they're pretty good. But for example, number 1, chapter breakfast or chapter meeting attendance. This month, how many did you have? We had 20. Great. What is your goal? Well, by the end of the year, we'd like to have 30. Okay, then that's your goal. So each month you can kind of see what you're doing. And if you're going down, you're going in the wrong direction. You got to figure out how to get creative and how to do something more effective. Hog events or meetings represented by your chapter. This month and what's your goal? In other words, this month, how many hog events or hog rides or hog, their monthly meetings, how many of those were you able to be at? Now, we don't want to know how many people you have there. We just want to know that Black Sheep was represented there. Yeah, this month we covered the hog monthly meeting, and we covered their bike night, and we covered their rides. Great. That's what we're trying to figure out. And then you say, well, I ride a victory. No problem. Other events or rides represented by your chapter. So if you went to Laughlin, or you went on a toy run, or you went to an AMA ride, or you went to an abate ride, mark it down. Okay? Chapter-sponsored rides or events this month. That one's talking about Black Sheep rides. We put on one ride and one yard sale. Okay, mark that down. Okay. Now we get very specific about spiritual needs of people. How many things like prayers, bike blessings, or hospital visits was your chapter be able to do this month? Well, we did 2 hospital visits, and 3 of us were able to pray with this guy at the park. And, that one guy, we blessed his bike at the dealership. Mark it down, okay? And again, this isn't so much for us as it is for you to see what you're doing versus what you want to do. Chapter fundraising. You may not do chapter fundraising, but I would tell you that there's a lot of reasons why you would need to have chapter fundraisers. It helps you pay for the places that you're going. Maybe if nothing else, you can help pick up some of the gas, some of the motels, or pay for some of the meals as your ministry is traveling and going. Because like we said, in mentorship, ministry is expensive. So nothing wrong with doing a couple of fundraisers a year. And how much do you think you'd like to have? $500 this year? $1,000 this year? $5,000 this year? This helps you to know whether or not you're on track or not. And then the last one, number 9, is share with us other signs of ministry and growth and prayer requests below. In other words, we're giving you a chance to, if we didn't scratch the itch, you put in whatever kind of a scratch you want. Where did you do something this last month? What did you do this last month to make a difference? Okay? And if nothing else, let us know your prayer requests. Listen, I have a very, very faithful group of guys and a few gals that show up here every Tuesday morning, and they pray their little hearts out for you guys. I got prayer requests today, and I said, Vicki, put those on the, we prayed, but then we said, put those on the Tuesday prayer list so our guys can pray. This is a way for us to stay in contact with our area contacts, with our chapters, that we can be praying for each other. Now listen, as I close, because we've gone almost 40 minutes, and I want to wrap this thing up. As we close, you say, well, I just got online. I saw somebody who just joined us. All of this is in your notes. And if you got things that are blank in your notes, I can send it to you. You can call me. In fact, can I ask you something? Would you call me if you've got a problem with this? Don't complain to the other members. Don't complain to your president or your regional director. Call me, 951-587-1623. Call me and tell me why this won't work. Or tell me why it will work. But if you don't like what we're doing, tell me how we should do it differently. Because status quo is not in the Bible. Self-service is not in the Bible. We were saved to serve. We were called into this ministry to reach the lost. The Word tells us that the bikers that we ride with and we see every day, that the church will never, ever have a chance to see. We see them. We see them every week. We're responsible for them. What will it be when we sit in front of Christ and He says, how come you never talked to those guys about Jesus? How come you never rode with those guys? Oh, you didn't like them? Oh, they were rich snobs? Well, they were rich snobs that I loved and cared about. How come you didn't do something? See, I don't want to do that, guys. I want to say, Lord, we we did this much, and we were shooting for this much. And when we started keeping ourselves accountable, we never quite met our goals, but we went from here to here. We've got to measure it. I want to see it. I hope you hear my heart on this. This isn't about beating somebody up for not, doing enough. It's not that. Unless you send me a blank report back every year, 0, 0, 0, and we did 0, 0, 0. All I want to do is encourage you. And I want to know what your prayer requests are, and I don't want to know what your needs are. If anybody can't get to ILS this year and you need to be there, I don't know how much we can do, but we'd like to help. Every president is supposed to be at ILS this year. Every president, every regional director. Area contacts, if you can't make it because you don't have a chapter support to help you to get there, call me. Maybe we can help. You say, how much can you help? Well, it depends on how many people call. But we're better than a sharp stick in the eye. We're in this together. We're building a bridge between us and those who are blind. And we've got to track how well we're doing. Or else we'll just keep throwing darts at the wall and calling it good when it's not good. I want to be able to look back this time next year and say, wow, we grew in number, we grew in finances, we grew in ministry. I told you that in closing I was going to give you our my national goals. Oh boy, where is it? I wanted to have that. Hang on a second. Oh, where did I do with it? Well, guess what? I can't find it. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to print it. I'm going to print it for you. Oh, wait. Here it is. 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 Not like being on camera when you don't have your thing in front of you. I thought I had this all worked out. Hang in there with me, folks. Yes, here it is. So here's what I've set up for these are my goals. These are my accountability things. What's it say? Looks like my organizational skills. Thanks, Jamie Lee. My goal between now and this time next year is to increase our overall membership by 10%. That's going from basically 950 up to about 1,050. To increase our chapters, and chapters are associated with dealerships, to increase us from 57 to 63. See, that doesn't sound like much. We want to go from 57 chapters to 63 chapters. Yeah, but that's a 10% increase. And if I only grow to 61 instead of 63, that's an increase. If I was too conservative and we grow to 75, great. But at least I know that right now we're at 57 and we need to grow. I want to see us go from 13 regions, which is what we have, all the way up to 16 regions. I'd like to see our state representation go from 36 states to 40 states. I'd like to see our ministry, not your chapters, but our national, what we're doing, go from 4 major evangelical gatherings to 5, which doesn't sound like much, but each one of those costs us between $5,000 and $10,000, $5,000 and $7,000 to be there. But it's marketing. It's introduced. It's that part where we're asking the Lord to give us more, the Lord of the harvest to give us more workers. I'm going to places where there's large groups of Christians looking to build our ministry. Representation at 6 major motorcycle events. I'd like to see us go up to 7 or 8. Now listen to this one. This is a fun one because it's really exciting and it sounds like, oh, that's impossible. But let me tell you how we can do it. I would like us to be able to, by this time next year, to be able to record 50 people who have given their hearts to Jesus. And we've been able to direct them into the local church so that they would become disciples. Go into all the world and make disciples. 50. You say, wow, that's a lot of people. Really? That is less than 1 person per chapter. Can we do that? And what would it be like to sit here next year and say, yeah, we led 52 people to Christ. We led 52 people to Christ. That's less than one person per chapter. I'd like to see the same thing happen with people who have rededicated their lives. Because Black Sheep has not only led people to Christ over the years, we've brought prodigals back home. Rededications. How about this one? I'd like to see us be able to record 250 hospital visits. You're going to have to write this down for me and report it so I can see. When you go to the hospital, why is that so important? Because I hate to say it, but hospitals are where people are open. They're hurt. They're wounded. They're sick. They've come to the end of their rope and they want some help. So I'd like to see us to be able to record 250 hospital visits this year. Sound like a lot? That's less than 5 visits per chapter per year. I'll do 10 or 15 this year. Surely our chapters can do some of those. I'd like to see us increase our corporate and local church sponsorship from 3 to 10. And actually that's outdated because we're about 5 now, but from 5 to 10. And lastly, now this is going to be a big one. This is important. I'd like to see us, through all of that, be able to increase our annual budget by about 20%. Our annual budget right now is about $250,000 a year. And I'd like to see us bring that up to $350,000 a year. Why? Why do we need more money? I'll tell you why. Because while we've got a great office staff, we're going to need to bring somebody on staff sooner than later, that we can pay a full-time salary to, that we can take a couple of years and train them and nurture them and prepare them to take my place. You know, we have nobody that right now could step up and do that. I'd like to spend a couple of years with somebody like that before I retire, or before I step into a subservient position to become that person's support person. We need a younger face than this. Gorgeous as this face is, we need a younger face to reach a new generation of people. And to do that, we don't need a $50,000 fundraiser. We need sustainable that we can do that with. Well, that's enough for tonight. We're going to be talking about this in the weeks and months to come. Are you satisfied with the status quo, or do you want to see something big happen for Jesus? Because big's the only thing I'm interested in. Big things for God. We serve a big God. Let's do something big for Him. God bless you guys. I love you. I appreciate you. Happy New Year. I'm so privileged to be your national president. And would you just pray about the things that we've talked about tonight? God bless you. See you around.